Welcome to She Coaches Coaches. I'm your host, Candy Motzek, and I'm going to help you find the clarity, confidence, and courage to become the coach that you are meant to be. If you're a new coach, or if you've always wanted to be a life coach, then this is the place for you. We're going to talk all about mindset and strategies and how to, because step by step only works when you have the clarity, courage, and confidence to take action. Let's get started. Hey everyone, and welcome to this week's episode. I am excited for this guest that I'm bringing on, and you're going to find out why once you start listening to our conversation. She is a repeat guest, and I have had her on this show. I think might even be the third time. And the reason I continue to have her on the show is that she speaks to the same kind of people that I speak to. She has a wealth of experience. She talks deeply about building relationships, and she really has also a deep knowledge about introverts who want to be successful coaches. Sometimes that's not a voice that's easy to find. And so I'm really excited to have her on the show today. Now, let me introduce her to you. Her name is Sophie Lechner, and she is a speaker, author, and business coach. She helps mission-driven entrepreneurs bring the joy of their client work over to their marketing so they can stop chasing clients and attract them like a magnet instead. She specializes in helping them leverage LinkedIn to build relationships and spread their message. Her 20-year presence on LinkedIn has led to speaking engagements, podcast invitations, clients, and a Forbes interview. She is the creator of the Magnet Model, which is a powerful framework for passionate entrepreneurs pursuing impact, income, and independence. And she has written a book that is going to be released very soon. So we're here to talk about her book and all interesting things about how marketing can be fun, how we can think differently about our marketing as well. So welcome to the show, Sophie. I'm really pleased to have you on today.
Thank you, Candy, for having me over again. And I really look forward to speaking with you, chatting about this, and hopefully bringing some value to your listeners.
Oh, thank you. So let's dive in about the book.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me what it's about and why did you start writing a book? It's a big undertaking.
Yes. So the book decided I needed to write it. I know that sounds a little silly, but I found myself in this situation where I was like, well, I guess I'm writing a book then, because things needed to be said. So basically, I've been coaching entrepreneurs, mission-driven entrepreneurs to use LinkedIn for the last 4 years, and I have been on LinkedIn for 20 years and love it. And what I realized in the course of those 4 years is that, 2 years before I started writing the book, but is that what I was accomplishing with my coaching was that people would start really enjoying what they were doing on LinkedIn, because I guess my enthusiasm for LinkedIn was contagious. But what I realized was that the way I taught people to use LinkedIn basically had embedded within it a completely different approach to marketing. And once I realized that there were two separate things that I was teaching people. One was how to use LinkedIn, and really embedded in that, how to do marketing differently. Then I realized, okay, there's something here that's more powerful than just learning the platform. But what is it? What is it? People kept telling me, you're showing me so much more. You're teaching me so much more. This has changed the way I view things. And so I went back and studied what was really happening under the hood, if you will. And I started codifying it and applying it, so learning from what I had done and what my clients were doing. And then once I had isolated certain elements and strategies and tactics, then I would try them right away with my current clients. And because they were codified and clarified and expressed more clearly, they started having more power. And so as I was collecting all this, I realized that there was something here that needed to be shared. And as I started sharing it around me, people kept telling me, wow, you need to share this, you need to talk about it. And then I started having people say, you read it, write a book. And I was like, oh, you kidding me? And then gradually, yeah.
I love that. Oh, are you kidding me? And then here we are, right?
Yeah, because it really is quite a project.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
There's something that you've described here, and I'm really curious about what you did codify and what you learned, and then how you applied it. But there's something that's really interesting about your approach, and the approach of, I've been doing this work with clients. They're
Mhm.
getting great results. They're telling me they're getting great results, and I can see it. And that's step one. But then to look under the hood and to take it apart and to analyze what you're doing and then to codify it and then to test the code that you've written, like, does the program run or not? That is an entirely different level of mastery than most coaches do. Most coaches, they come up with a system, they do it, it might evolve over time, but then they don't go back and say, why does this work? What is it exactly about this that works and doesn't work? And then to experiment. I mean, I know experimented might be a little bit of a harsh word, but to try it again with people and see, is it really that thing? Like, there's a level of mastery, there's a level of curiosity, and there's a level of like a desire to really help the people that you're working with. And so
Thank
just
you.
hats
Yeah,
off to you. Yeah.
I appreciate you dissecting it in that way. It's true. And at the same time, it probably sounds a lot more intentional now that I'm describing it and the way reflected it back to me. I am by nature a very curious person, and I value curiosity. It's half of my motto. My motto is be curious, be generous, and I find that solves all situations for me. And so I think it was mostly driven by curiosity and generosity. So the curiosity to know, oh, so why is this working, right? So always look at the why, and then, sharing it because you know?
Right. And if we can help people better, then let's share more of
Mhm.
that. Right.
Yeah,
Love
yeah.
that. So how long did it take you from relenting and saying, I will write a book, to the book coming out?
So I had some fits and starts. I think in total, it's probably about 2 years. But honestly, the serious work of writing was probably about April, May, June, July, 5 months, let's say.
Okay.
Um, what contributed to the slow start was that um, I started off by saying, well, I want to write a book about LinkedIn and how to use LinkedIn because I'm a LinkedIn coach. And so that's what I'm going to. And what I've been describing before, that process all happened while I was writing the book. And so as I was writing about LinkedIn, I was discovering that really the secret sauce was not LinkedIn at all. So then at one point, I had written 20,000 words. I felt like I was like two-thirds done. And I was like, this is not the book I want to write. So I
Oh.
put it aside painfully, but also with a measure of relief because
Mm.
I started to writing and I was kind of not getting to this, the new things I wanted to say. So I set it aside, but then I was like, well, okay, so I know what I want to write, but how, right? So starting again. And I paid a few people along the way to coach me through how to write an outline. And then I wrote an outline. Then I was like, no, that's still not right. So then I had my outline I was happy with, and I started writing, but I had not made it a priority. And so I would write, a few hours here and there, and then for a few weeks I wouldn't write, and then I would be like, oh, what is it that I wrote? And then one day I was like, no, I have to put the turbo on this. And so I cleared my calendar of everything except basic client work and said, okay, all my free time now is going to be writing. And
Wow.
so I wrote 2, 3 hours a day. I wrote 8 hours on the weekends, and then it got done finally. That's a long answer to your short question.
No, but again, it sort of shows this like there's life lessons and business lessons that are all wrapped up in there, right? Like this whole thing about what's a priority, and you can see your priorities about, you can define your priorities about where you're spending your time. And if you say something's a priority, but you're not actually doing it, well, then you've just shown yourself that you better think again about what you're saying is your priority. And there's something, but there's also like once you got down to it, it actually happened pretty quick, right? Yeah.
And I just feel this urge to tell you how much I loved it. Once I was, because before I put the turbo on, as I say,
Yeah.
um, I would enjoy the moments when I was writing, and then in between, I'd be like, I really should write on my work on my book. I should, but maybe I'll do it tomorrow. There was all this stuff happening. Once I put the turbo, there was no more of that. So it was all pure enjoyment. And it's not surprising because I've always been sort of a one-track mind in a way. Like I can only really, really focus on one thing at a time, one big project or one big thing, right? Of course, I can do several things. I do coaching and I do, other things, but main, sort of creative push can only be on one thing. So it's not surprising that that ended up being my process. I could have just thought of
Well,
that before.
and you actually have a second book that's kind of sort of written, but isn't going to come into being
Yeah, I don't know
necessarily.
I don't know if I'll ever write it, but maybe I will. Maybe.
Who knows? You might do something different with it as well.
Yes, I
Like it
might.
doesn't have to be a book. Yeah.
Yeah,
So we've
but
talked
I
about
think
the
that
book, but what we haven't said is we haven't said the title. So will
ah,
you share the title of the book?
yes. So this is all about, difficult deliveries, but it took me a long, long, long time to come up with the title because I was all wrapped up in like, oh, it's so important for me to choose a title. So I was working with all kinds of different options. And then one day I was in a session, one of those group sessions where there's a lot of discussion and somebody asked a question and then all of a sudden I had this epiphany that then led me to the title. So the title, the main title is Unlock Your Impact. And the subtitle is The Roadmap to Magnetic Client Attraction for Entrepreneurs Who Hate Marketing.
Mm.
So I had been playing with a lot of those words that are in the subtitle, the roadmap, the magnetic client attraction, the hate marketing, all of this. But the Unlock Your Impact came from this session where I had this epiphany where somebody asked something along the lines of, what's the real deep emotional pain of your clients? And it's interesting because I talk about that in my book and how you need to really understand that. And yet I reached another level of that understanding where all of a sudden it came to me, and I realized I had that same pain as well, which is, we get to a certain age in life or stage in life where we have accumulated, we coaches, mission-driven entrepreneurs, right? We've accumulated all this expertise and all this knowledge and all this wisdom, and we want to share it. And we have a chunk of time ahead of us, but there's also in the back of our mind this feeling of urgency, right? That time is passing and here I am floundering with my marketing and floundering with my business and I'm not get and my stuff that's inside of me is not getting out to the people that I want to help. And and so this sort of realization made me come up with the title, which I had not considered before at all, Unlock Your Impact, because that's what I feel we all want to do and need to do. And my book will help with that.
Yeah, and this thing about, there's an age and a stage that we get to where we want to have we want to start thinking about creating a legacy. And that might not be a big capital L legacy or for future generations, but it's like create something meaningful
Mhm. Yeah.
in this life, so that
Mhm.
that we know that we've done something that really was important to us and important to the world and helpful for people, and that we've made a mark on this planet, right? And I think that that's really important.
Yeah.
One of
Yeah.
the things that's in the subtitle that I think is so fascinating is for entrepreneurs who hate marketing. And so, can we talk a little bit about that? Because this is what I see all the time. And truthfully, I've experienced it, not as much as I used to, but still from time to time. Coaches who love to coach, who love to help people, who are kind hearted, wonderful, smart people with a lot to offer, but they don't want to go out and market. And there's this divide that it creates for them. So that really spoke to me.
Yeah.
What's your experience with that?
Well, that's exactly it. That's exactly right. It's exactly what I'm hearing from people. And I have a story that I tell in my book. At one stage in my entrepreneurial journey, I was coaching entrepreneurs for a third party, like I was a contractor. And so I was coaching people one after the other after the other. So in the course of a few months, spoke to hundreds of entrepreneurs, and it was all the time the same thing. So I talk about how it was almost schizophrenic. Like they would talk to me and tell me about their woes, about their business. They couldn't, develop it, and all this stuff was happening, and they needed help and all this. And then I would ask them, so, their shoulders be like this, and then, you know, and then I would ask them, so what do you do? How do you help your clients? And they would start talking about their what they do and and when my clients and I was like, are you even the same person? Your skin doesn't look the same. You're like the room would light up literally with their enthusiasm. And that was so striking to me. And it made me sad, it made me angry. And that was part of the whole journey was to say, well, why can't we have this same light and excitement the whole time? And that's what we want. And that's really the basis of, it's not the basis of the book, but it's the underlying, it's the result of doing marketing the way that I explained in the book is this thing about bringing the joy of your client work into your marketing. Because
Mm.
basically, if you do everything in the book, you are coaching your audience of unknown people who have not paid you, you don't know their name, they're out there looking at whatever you're doing, but you are coaching them before they ever buy from you. That's really the underlying philosophy of it all. So that means that inside of you, you're creating this complete shift in who you bring to the table. So instead of, as you said, there's this divide, right? Instead of being all excited and have our passion and our expertise when we're with our clients and then doing the marketing where we're like, oh, I don't want
Yeah.
to do it, right? You
Yeah.
have this whole lit up way of being in all of it. And so then the rest of the book is how do you do that?
Right. And I really like that. So this idea of when you're creating content, when you're out marketing, when you're meeting people, when you're speaking at an event, you have the thought or the intention that these people are already clients,
Mhm.
essentially, and you serve them exactly as you would, generously and with care and
Mhm.
seeing each one as you're able to as a unique individual. And so when you have
Yeah,
those kinds of conversations, like they're conversations, whether it's
exactly.
written or video or whatever,
Yeah,
it
exactly. And
really,
that's why I like working with mission-driven entrepreneurs because honestly, as mission-driven entrepreneurs, yes, we need the money and but the money is a side effect of our mission, right?
mm-hmm,
It's
mm-hmm,
also what feeds us and allows us to continue, but it's not our reason for doing it. So because it's not our reason for doing it, the main reason is we want to help people. So therefore, we want to help as many people as possible. Now, some of them you will help a little bit from a distance, and some of them you will help a lot closely and being paid for it. But all of it is your mission, right? So when you're helping someone from afar, it's also your mission. So you're also
mm-hmm.
doing your client work. And
Yeah.
that's the major mindset shift that helps.
That's really interesting, Sophie. And it just, for me, it reminds me of some work that I was doing last year. So I was part of a Q4 mastermind, and it was, set a big goal and then, look at it from all kinds of creative angles and meet new and interesting people and just see how you could create that. And I had set this big dollar goal. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to create this. And it was like nothing. It was just like, don't care, don't really care. And I really learned that it wasn't, of course I love to earn good money. Okay. We'll say that. Like that's a given. I love to have a good life. I like to have freedom. I like to have choices. I like to have things, right? I like to not have stress.
Yep.
So yes, money is important and I value it. But for a goal, it was the impact. How many people would I like to be able to help? And why is that so interesting? Exact same goal, different metric, different measurement. So instead of the
Yeah.
dollar, it was the number of people
Yeah.
would create the same dollar, but now it was meaningful, right?
Yeah.
And that's
What
that's kind of what you're saying in a way.
Yeah, exactly. What's the means and what's the end? So you can have, a number of people that you reach that get you the dollars. So that's the people or the impact is the means to an end. Or you can flip it exactly as you explained and have the number of people be the goal, the end, and then the money you make on the way is the means, you
Right.
know?
Yeah. Like there's only so many variables. And if you like to focus on this variable, then go for it, especially if it's going to make the world a better place.
Yeah,
It
I mean,
feels,
like you said, I get really excited when, big number of thousands of dollars come into my account,
yeah,
but it doesn't do the same for me as it does so much less for me than, emotionally and excitement wise than, somebody who I'm on a free call with and I recommend they do something and then they go do it and they write to me that it's made a huge difference for them and right, $0, but my excitement, my gut level, like, yes, this was a good day,
mhm,
is so much better than
yeah,
the dollars.
yeah, that's cool. Um, there is a question that I haven't fully formed, but I'm really curious about is you would have experienced things differently because you were writing and analyzing. Is there something that is an unexpected lesson that you learned, an unexpected bonus that you hadn't realized would happen because you wrote this book?
Yes. Yes, that whole process of writing, well, one unexpected level was that I just adored the process. I loved it. Um, didn't expect to love it as much. What was unexpected and brought me huge joy, and this might be different for different people, was the level of depth of thinking that it forced me to have.
Mm.
And I've just always enjoyed like the thinking process. I'm a INTJ, whatever, like the thinking is something I enjoy. And I'm an introvert, and
Yeah.
introverts are often deep thinkers, right?
Right. Yeah.
Um, so I did enjoy my solitude writing, and sometimes I would come at the end of the day and I was like, my brain hurts and I loved it because I had just pushed myself on these concepts, and I would write and then I would come back and say, I think there's another level. And so I would rewrite or, you know, dissect. So hopefully that doesn't sound too painful and unappealing for the reader.
Well, it's kind of like solving a really difficult puzzle.
Yeah.
Like, you know that there is a solution, and it might make you think about things in a different way or hold your head in a different angle, but there's this drive to like, well, I can do this. It's sort of like that next level of growth, right?
And I hope that by doing this deep thinking, I've been able to come out at the other end um, with a right, the output being simple, because a lot of times simplicity comes from this deep thinking, right? So
Right.
hopefully I got there. I think I did because I got beta readers and people are starting to write it now, the people on my launch team, and they're telling me that. So hopefully, yeah, came
Mm,
through.
I love that. What was there anything that felt harder than you thought it was going to?
Well, there were times when I was getting a little bit tired of this brain pain. Um, I would say what was hardest was dealing with my own impatience. I mean, in the end, I was glad that I took the time, but for example, like I had created this whole Excel spreadsheet with my whole timeline between, writing, sending to my beta readers in July, and then the publishing and all this. And I had put for incorporating all the feedback from beta readers, I had put 2 weeks. And it's kind of laughable now because I had 10 beta readers, which is actually a lot. Maybe
Mm,
try not to get 10, but I loved having all of that feedback. Everybody's feedback was so different. Um, and it really made me think through a lot of the stuff again, deeper. I added a lot about my own story that people were asking me. So, how did you get to that idea? And why did you write that? And what did that look in your business? And I had, put myself out of the book. I was like, well, this isn't about me, right? But then I was asked. Um, but the bottom line is I gave myself 2 months and then I needed a third month just to incorporate all this feedback.
wow.
So it was once I let myself enjoy the process, because I was like, I can't do this in time. And this friend of mine said, well, who said what the deadline was for your publishing date, right? It was
Mm,
going to be January. And I was like, yeah, I could move it. So I did. Um, so that was the hard part is like once I had written it in July, I was like, I want it in people's hands already, and not being able to do that, not just from the beta reader review process, but then there's all the layout and the cover, which is fun too, but just the whole process takes a long time. That's the hard part.
yeah, so longer than you thought, more
Yeah,
patience than you thought.
yeah.
Yeah, I can really see that. I have
Who,
a question.
mhm.
Who have you become because you've written this book?
So I don't know who other than this is going to sound crazy. I think I have become me. So what I'm going to get at is I think this has given me the confidence to stand behind my ideas in a way that possibly I should have had before, but didn't for whatever reason. Or I did in practice, but not on this scale, right? So I think having forced myself to create this model and that I explain in the book, and to think through, it's almost like explaining and justifying why every single idea and thought is valid because I have backed it. Um, Gives me the strength now to stand behind it and be able to have this platform to then share it much more broadly.
Hmm.
So I think that's kind of what has changed from a year ago to now. I was just listening to a um, webinar that I gave a year and a half ago in August 2023. And I was like, oh, I wonder if there are bits and pieces in there that I could use to explain my model. And I just, this was happened this morning, and I listened to the whole thing. And I was like, everything that's in my book is in this webinar. Um, there's practically nothing I would change. So it really brings to light what you're talking about because it was all there, but I didn't speak about it or spread it out. Yes, it was a webinar, but I didn't have the platform that I have now to really speak about it in this bigger way and share it on a much bigger scale.
Yeah. A
Mhm.
bigger mission,
Yeah.
a deeper connection with your mission. And really the first thing that you said, this become more me. And
Mhm.
isn't that what life is really all about? Where we come into this world, we're fully ourselves, and then we learn not to be, and then we learn to become ourselves again, right? So it's like a new level of maturity. I love it. Ah, that's so interesting, Sophie. I really appreciate you spending the time with us today, and I've so enjoyed our conversation.
Me
Can you
too.
tell us more about where to find the book? Tell the title, how they
Mhm.
can come into your world, because I think that there's really something here for these mission driven entrepreneurs. This could really change the game for them entirely.
Yes, I do believe it's a total game changer. Absolutely. So again, the name, Unlock Your Impact, the roadmap to magnetic client attraction for entrepreneurs who hate marketing. You will find it on Amazon when it comes out. You can just search for the title or my name. And what you can do right now already is sign up for the launch team, which means I would appreciate a review. But the bottom line is you can get an advanced copy now by going to uh, https themagnetmodel.com/book. And that will allow you to sign up for the launch team and you will immediately get a PDF of the book. And then for those of you who listen to this after it comes out, you can just buy the book.
Lovely. So that covers both. Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate having you on the show. And
Thank you, Candy.
I learned about the book, but also the deeper work that goes into writing a book where you're expanding your platform, growing more into your own knowing, and the practice of mastery.
I loved your questions, Candy. So thank you for having me on again.
Oh, you're very welcome. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this week. All right, everyone. We'll see you again next week. Bye bye. Thanks again for listening today. Please hop on over to Apple Podcasts and leave a review. Also, I would love to hear from you. Did something that I say resonate? What else would you like to learn about? Click the link in the player and leave a comment on the post. This is going to give me great ideas for future episodes so I can help you best. Join me again next week for more coaching, support, and teaching to help you become the confident coach you are meant to be. Hey, it's Candy, and I am so glad you're here. Thanks again for tuning in and listening to this episode. Now, before you go, Don't forget to take my How to Find Your Best Coaching Niche quiz. You can find it at coachnichequiz.com. That's coachnichequiz.com. Talk to you soon.